Document. Part 6 of Aliens started the survival test. Humans had already set traps. The facility was alive with purpose as Ethan and his team prepared for their most ambitious mission yet. The air buzzed with quiet conversations, the clatter of tools, and the steady hum of computers running simulations. Everyone knew what was at stake. If this plan succeeded, it could turn the tide against the Vrin. If it failed, humanity might not get another chance. Ethan stood near the center of the lab, studying a map spread across the table. It showed the locations of several alien relay stations, each marked with a red dot. These stations were critical to the Vrin's operations, serving as hubs for their communication and control systems. Destroying them would cripple their ability to coordinate on the ground, but getting close enough to do so was no small task. "We'll need to hit all of them at once," Ethan said finally, glancing at the others. "If we take out just one or two, they'll adapt too quickly. We strike simultaneously, and we give ourselves a real shot." Samantha nodded, her expression serious. "That means splitting up. We don't have the manpower to cover every station, but we can arm civilians who are willing to fight." "They've already shown they're ready to push back," Laura added. "We'll need to provide them with clear instructions and equipment. Anything less, and they won't stand a chance." Ryan, who had been working on the signal device, looked up from his laptop. "I've boosted its range. One team can carry it to the central relay station, the biggest one, and use it to amplify the EMP effects across the network. That should knock out the remaining stations." Ethan thought for a moment, weighing the risks. "It's dangerous, but it's our best shot. Ryan, you'll go with Samantha to the central station. Laura and I will handle the other teams, making sure everyone knows their role." The group agreed, and they immediately set to work. Laura gathered supplies and began contacting groups of survivors hidden throughout the city. She sent encrypted messages over makeshift radio channels, explaining the plan and urging volunteers to meet at designated rally points. Meanwhile, Samantha and Ryan prepared the signal device, testing its connections and ensuring it could withstand the strain of such a powerful output as night fell. The teams assembled outside the facility. Dozens of civilians joined them, their faces determined despite the fear in their eyes. Some carried weapons scavenged from abandoned stores. Others held tools repurposed into crude explosives. Ethan addressed the crowd, his voice steady and firm. "This isn't just about surviving," he said, meeting their gazes one by one. "This is about showing the Vrin that we won't be broken. We fought them before, and we'll keep fighting until they leave our world alone. Tonight we hit them hard, together." The crowd murmured in agreement, their resolve strengthening. Ethan divided them into smaller groups, each assigned to a specific relay station. He handed out maps, radios, and instructions, emphasizing the importance of timing. "Stick to the plan," he repeated. "If we falter, they'll crush us." With everything in place, the teams dispersed into the darkness. Ethan and Laura led one group toward a relay station located near an old industrial park. The streets were eerily silent, the usual sounds of life replaced by the faint hum of alien technology. Overhead, the massive mothership cast its orange glow, a constant reminder of the enemy watching from above. When they reached the outskirts of the industrial park, Ethan signaled for the group to stop. Ahead, glowing orbs floated above the entrance to the relay station, their beams scanning the area for intruders. "Wait for my signal," Ethan whispered. Motioning for 2 volunteers to flank the building, he pulled a small EMP emitter from his pack and aimed it at the nearest orb. A burst of energy surged through the air, causing the orb to shudder and dim. The sudden disruption drew the attention of the other orbs, giving the flanking team a chance to slip inside unnoticed. "Now," Ethan shouted, charging forward with the rest of the group. Our bullets ricocheted off metallic surfaces as the humans exchanged fire with the orbs. Inside the station, the flanking team planted explosives near the core, setting a timer before retreating. To safety, the explosion was deafening, sending shockwaves through the surrounding area. The orbs outside flickered and collapsed, their connection to the network severed. Ethan allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction before turning to the group. "Good work. Now let's move to the next one." Meanwhile, Samantha and Ryan approached the central relay station, the largest and most heavily guarded of them all. The building loomed ahead, surrounded by a swarm of orbs and strange, insect-like drones patrolling the perimeter. Samantha crouched behind a pile of rubble, studying the scene through binoculars. "There's too many," she muttered, lowering the binoculars. "We'll never make it inside like this." Ryan adjusted the signal device strapped to his back. "Then we'll have to draw them away. Use the device to create a diversion." Samantha hesitated, then nodded. "All right. But if this goes wrong, you run." "Got it, Ryan?" Smiled faintly. "Wouldn't dream of leaving you behind." Together they moved closer, staying low to avoid detection. When they were within range, Ryan activated the signal device, sending out a burst of interference that disrupted the orb systems. The effect was immediate. The orbs faltered, their lights dimming as they struggled to regain control. The drones turned toward the source of the disturbance, giving Samantha and Ryan a narrow window to slip past. Inside the station, the air was thick with alien energy, pulsing through glowing panels and humming machinery. Samantha placed the signal device in the center of the room, connecting it to the main console. Ryan monitored the readings on his tablet, adjusting frequencies and power levels. "How much longer?" Samantha asked, keeping watch at the door. 30 seconds, Ryan replied, his fingers flying across the screen. "Just hold them off." Outside, the orbs regained their composure and converged on the building. Samantha fired bursts of EMP energy, disabling several orbs before retreating deeper into the station. The drones followed, their mechanical limbs clicking ominously as they closed in. "Done," Ryan shouted, backing away from the console. "Go." They sprinted toward the exit, pursued by a swarm of drones and orbs. As they reached the doorway, Ryan triggered the signal device remotely, unleashing a massive surge of energy. The resulting explosion engulfed the station, sending debris flying in all directions. The shockwave knocked Samantha and Ryan off their feet, forcing them to shield their faces from the blast. When the dust settled, the station lay in ruins, its glowing panels extinguished and its machinery silent. The orbs and drones that had been guarding it were gone, reduced to scattered fragments of metal and circuits. Back at the facility, Ethan and Laura monitored the situation via hacked satellite feeds. Images showed widespread disruptions in the VRIN's network, with relay stations collapsing one after another. For the first time since the invasion began, was a glimmer of hope. "They're scrambling," Laura said, pointing to clusters of orbs retreating toward the mothership as their coordination is breaking down. Ethan nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. It worked. Now we press the advantage. But their celebration was short-lived. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the facility. Ryan's voice crackled through the radio. "Ethan, we've got trouble. The mothership, it's moving. It's heading straight for us." Ethan's heart sank. "How long do we have?" "Minutes." "Tops," Ryan replied. "You need to evacuate now." Ethan said firmly. "Not yet. We've come too far to run now. Gather everyone and head to the bunker beneath the facility. We'll make our stand there." As the team regrouped, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was the moment they had been preparing for. The VRIN weren't just invaders. They were predators, testing humanity's limits to see if they deserved to survive. And tonight, humanity would show them exactly what it meant to fight back. Together. The team descended into the bunker, sealing the doors behind them, armed with weapons, traps, and the remnants of their ingenuity. They braced themselves for the battle ahead. Outside, the mothership loomed larger than ever, its shadow swallowing the horizon. "This is it," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "For Earth, for humanity. Let's finish this." And with that, they readied. Themselves determined to protect their world, Evan, if it cost them everything. *** document. Part 5 of Aliens started the survival test. Humans had already set traps. ***, the facility buzzed with a mix of exhaustion and cautious optimism. Ethan, Laura, Samantha, and Ryan gathered around the table, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of laptops and scattered papers. The remnants of their last mission lay scattered across the room, damaged equipment, empty ammunition clips, and hastily scribbled notes. Despite their recent success in disabling several alien orbs, the team knew it was only a temporary victory. The Vrin were learning, adapting, and growing more aggressive with each encounter. Ethan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. His body ached from the strain of their previous mission, but his mind raced with thoughts of what to do next. "We hit them hard," he said finally, breaking the silence. "But it's not enough. They're still out there, still testing us. If we don't find a way to strike deeper, they'll keep coming." Laura nodded, her expression grim. "The problem is scale. Every time we disable one orb or collapse a tunnel, they replace it. It's like trying to plug holes in a sinking ship. We need to go after something bigger, something that will cripple their entire operation." Samantha crossed her arms, her sharp eyes scanning the group. "Like what? Their mothership? That thing's massive. Even if we could get close, how? Would we take it down?" Ryan, who had been quietly typing on his laptop, looked up. "Maybe we don't need to destroy it. What if we focus on disrupting their communication network? From what we've seen, everything they do is controlled remotely. If we can sever that link, we might be able to isolate their forces." Ethan straightened, his interest piqued.
Yes.
"Not a bad idea. But how do we even begin? Their tech is light years ahead of ours." "We use what we've got," Ryan replied, gesturing to the tablet displaying schematics of the alien orb they had dismantled earlier. "There are patterns in their signals, weaknesses we can exploit. If we amplify the signal device and target key nodes, we might be able to overload their system." Laura frowned, leaning over the tablet to study the data. "It's risky. We mess this up, we could make things worse. Or worse yet, alert them to our plans." "It's a risk we have to take," Ethan said firmly. "We've already proven that we can disrupt their operations temporarily. Now we need to make it permanent." The team agreed, and they quickly divided tasks. Ryan stayed behind to refine the signal device, adding new layers of encryption and amplifying its range. Laura scoured the classified files for information about potential weak points in the Vrin's network, focusing on areas where their tech intersected with Earth's infrastructure. Samantha armed herself and prepared to lead a reconnaissance mission, scouting locations where the team could deploy the upgraded device without being detected. Ethan coordinated the efforts, ensuring everyone stayed focused despite the mounting pressure. By dawn, the team was ready to move. Samantha led a small group outside, cloaked under the cover of darkness. They carried the modified signal device in a reinforced case, along with weapons and supplies. The streets were eerily quiet, the usual sounds of life replaced by the hum of alien technology and the occasional distant explosion. Overhead, the massive mothership loomed, casting an ominous shadow over the landscape. "This way," Samantha whispered. Consulting a map displayed on her wrist-mounted tablet, she pointed toward an abandoned subway station, its entrance partially collapsed from earlier skirmishes. "If we can access the tunnels, we might be able to reach one of their relay stations." The group moved cautiously, their footsteps muffled by debris and shadows. As they approached the station, Samantha signaled for them to stop. A pair of glowing orbs floated nearby, scanning the area with thin beams of light. The team crouched low, holding their breath as the orbs passed overhead. When the coast was clear, they slipped inside, descending into the dark. Damp tunnels below, the air grew colder as they ventured deeper, carrying the faint metallic temps of alien energy. Laura consulted her tablet, guiding the group through a maze of crumbling walls and rusted tracks. After nearly an hour of navigating the labyrinth, they reached a sealed door marked with strange symbols. "This is it," Laura said, her voice barely audible. "One of their relay stations. If we can plant the signal device here, it should disrupt their entire local network." Noting the door, noting the intricate locking mechanism. "It's not going to open easily. We'll need to bypass it." Ryan knelt beside the door, pulling tools from his pack. He worked quickly, his fingers deftly manipulating wires and circuits. After several tense minutes, the door hissed open, revealing a chamber filled with alien machinery. Glowing panels lined the walls, pulsing rhythmically with an otherworldly energy. "Set it up," Ethan ordered, keeping watch at the entrance, "and hurry. We don't know how long we have before they notice." Samantha and Laura placed their signal device in the center of the room, connecting it to the alien systems. Ryan monitored the readings on his laptop, adjusting frequencies and power levels. "Almost there," he muttered, his brow furrowed in concentration. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently, sending shards of concrete raining down from the ceiling. Alarms blared, filling the chamber with a deafening wail. "They know we're here," Laura shouted, scrambling to finish the setup. "Get back," Ethan yelled, raising his rifle as the first orb descended into the chamber. Its surface pulsed with an intense light, forcing the team to shield their eyes. Samantha fired a burst of EMP energy at the orb, causing it to falter momentarily. "It's done," she shouted, grabbing Ryan's arm. "Let's move." The team retreated into the tunnels, pursued by a swarm of orbs. The narrow passages slowed the aliens' advance, giving the humans a slim chance to escape. As they reached the surface, Ethan triggered the signal device remotely. Sending a surge of interference rippling through the relay station, a massive explosion rocked the ground, collapsing the entrance to the tunnels and silencing the alarms. The orbs above flickered and dimmed, their movements becoming erratic. For a moment the team stood frozen, watching as the alien forces struggled to regain control. "We did it," Ryan said breathlessly, lowering his weapon. "Their network is down, at least in this sector." "For now," Ethan replied, his tone cautious, "but they'll recover. And when they do, they'll come after us harder than ever." Back at the facility, the team regrouped. Their spirits buoyed by their success, but weighed down by the knowledge that the fight was far from over. Ethan paced the lab, his mind racing with strategies for their next move. "This is just the beginning," he said finally. "We've shown them that we can hit back. Now, we need to keep pushing, keep finding ways to weaken them." Laura nodded, pointing to a map of the surrounding area. "There are other relay stations like the one we just destroyed. If we can take those out too, we might be able to divide their forces and isolate them. And while they're distracted, we can work on something bigger," Samantha added. "Something that will hurt them where it counts." Ethan glanced at Ryan, who was already tinkering with the signal device. "What about the mothership? Is there any way we can use this tech to reach it?" Ryan hesitated, then shook his head. "Not directly. But if we combine the signal device with some of the traps we've uncovered, we might be able to create a diversion big enough to draw their attention away from the ground forces." "That could work," Ethan said, a spark of determination lighting his eyes. "We'll need to act fast, though. Once they realize what we're doing, they'll throw everything they've got at us." The team agreed, and they began planning their next mission. Laura mapped out potential trap sites, marking locations where dormant explosives and EMP devices could be activated. Samantha organized a small strike team, preparing them for the dangers ahead. Ryan continued refining the signal device, adding new features to increase its range and power. Ethan oversaw it all, ensuring every detail was accounted for. As night fell, the facility grew quieter, the hum of computers and the soft clink of tools, the only sounds breaking the silence. Outside, the alien ship still dominated the sky, its presence a constant reminder of the threat humanity faced. But inside, the team worked tirelessly, driven by a shared belief that they could win, not because they were stronger or smarter, but because they refused to give up. "We've got one shot at this," Ethan said finally, addressing the group. "If we pull it off, we'll change the game. If we fail," he trailed off, unwilling to voice the thought. "But I believe in us. In all of us." No one spoke, but the resolve in their eyes said enough. They were ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, but they had risen to meet the challenge head-on. Together, they vowed to keep fighting, using every tool at their disposal to protect their world. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan believed they could win. Not because they were invincible, but because they had something the Vryn didn't: The unyielding spirit of humanity. *** document. Part 4 of Aliens started the survival test. Humans had already set traps. ***. The facility was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional clink of tools. Ethan sat at a table, his hands clasped tightly together, as he stared at the shattered remains of the signal device. The team had returned from their failed mission, battered but alive. And though they were physically safe, the weight of their failure hung heavy in the air. They had come so close to disabling the alien orbs, only to be overwhelmed by a more powerful version sent by the Vrin. It was a harsh reminder that the aliens weren't just testing humanity, they were learning, adapting, and countering every move. Laura paced back and forth, her arms crossed over her chest. She stopped near the window, glancing outside at the orange glow cast by the massive alien ship. "We can't keep doing this," she said finally, her voice tinged with frustration. "Every time we try something, they respond faster, stronger. We're running out of options." Ryan looked up from his laptop where he was analyzing fragments of the destroyed signal device. "Not entirely," he said, his tone cautious, but hopeful. "The signal worked at least for a little while. If we can rebuild it, maybe improve it, we might stand a chance." Ethan nodded slowly, leaning forward in his chair. "That's easier said than done. We don't have the materials or the time to start from scratch. And even if we did, there's no guarantee it would work again." Samantha, who had been quietly cleaning her rifle, spoke up. "What about the traps? The ones set up years ago by whoever prepared for this. Have we used all of them?" Ethan shook his head. "Not yet, but most of them are outdated. They were designed decades ago, based on speculation, not actual knowledge. Of the Vrin, still." He trailed off, considering the idea. "Maybe we can modify them, combine old tech with what we've learned from the orb." Laura turned away from the window, her expression thoughtful. "It's worth a shot. At the very least, it'll give us something to hit them with while we figure out our next big move." The team agreed, and they quickly divided tasks. Stayed behind to tinker with the remnants of the signal device, hoping to salvage usable parts. Laura began combing through the classified files they'd uncovered earlier, searching for blueprints of the dormant traps. Samantha grabbed a map of the surrounding area and started marking potential locations where the traps could be activated. Ethan took charge of coordinating their efforts, ensuring everyone stayed focused despite the mounting pressure. Hours passed, and progress was slow but steady. Laura unearthed detailed plans for several underground tunnels rigged with explosives designed to collapse enemy structures. There were also schematics for EMP devices hidden beneath key points in major cities, capable of disabling alien technology within a wide radius. The challenge was accessing these systems without alerting the Vrin. "We'll need to split up," Ethan said finally, spreading the map across the table. "Some of us will go out and activate the traps. Others will stay here and monitor the results. If we do this right, we might be able to cripple their operations in certain areas." Samantha studied the map, her sharp eyes scanning for weaknesses. "I'll lead the activation team," she volunteered. "You're better suited to stay here and coordinate, Ethan. Besides, someone needs to make sure Ryan doesn't blow himself up." Ethan chuckled despite the tension. "Fair enough. Take Laura with you. She knows the layouts better than anyone." Ryan raised his hand slightly, looking sheepish. What about me? You're staying here," Ethan replied firmly. "Need you working on the signal device? If we manage to disrupt the Vrin's control long enough, your upgrades could turn the tide." Ryan nodded reluctantly, though his fingers twitched toward his keyboard. He hated being left behind, but he understood the importance of his role. As the others geared up to leave, he dove back into his work, determined to make every second count. By the time Samantha and Laura reached the first trap site, night had fallen. The streets were eerily silent, illuminated only by the faint glow of the alien ship overhead. Shadows stretched long across abandoned buildings, creating an atmosphere of unease. Samantha carried a small handheld device that emitted a low beep. Whenever they neared one of the trap locations, Tava followed closely, clutching a tablet displaying overlays of the underground tunnels. "This is it," Samantha said, stopping beside a rusted manhole cover. She knelt down and pried it open, revealing a dark shaft leading into the earth. Ready? Laura hesitated, peering into the darkness. As ready as I'll ever be. They descended carefully, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. The air grew colder and damper the deeper they went, carrying the scent of damp soil and metal. After several minutes of climbing down ladders and navigating narrow passages, they reached a large chamber filled with dusty machinery. In the center stood a control panel covered in cobwebs and corrosion. Laura approached the panel cautiously, brushing away grime to reveal faded labels and switches. "This must be it," she said, consulting the tablet. "If we trigger this, it should collapse the tunnel network directly beneath the alien outpost." Samantha frowned, examining the wiring. "It looks stable enough, but we should double-check the connections before activating it. We don't want it blowing up in our faces." Together, they inspected the system, tightening loose bolts and replacing frayed wires. Once satisfied, Laura flipped the main switch. A deep rumble echoed through the chamber as the machines roared to life, shaking dust from the ceiling. The ground trembled violently, forcing both women to brace themselves. "Against the wall, it's working," Laura shouted over the noise. "Let's get out of here." They scrambled back up the ladder, emerging onto the street just as the earth began to crack and shift. A section of road caved inward, swallowing debris and sending clouds of dirt billowing into the air. Moments later, a loud crash echoed in the distance, the sound of collapsing tunnels bringing down part of the alien structure above. "Well done, Samantha said, breathing heavily. "Now let's see if it made a difference." Back at the facility, Ethan monitored the situation via satellite feeds hacked by Ryan. The images showed significant damage to the targeted area, with several orbs falling offline. However, the victory was short-lived. Within minutes, new orbs appeared, replacing the damaged ones and restoring order to the region. They're regrouping faster than expected, Ethan muttered, tapping his earpiece. "Good job, team, but we'll need to hit them harder next time." Samantha's voice came through clearly. "Understood." "What's the next target?" Ethan consulted the map. "Head north to Sector 7. There's another set of traps there. Along with an EMP device, if we can disable their tech in that zone, it'll give us breathing room." As Samantha and Laura moved toward the next location, Ethan turned to Ryan. "How's the signal device coming?" "Slowly," Ryan admitted. Rubbing his temples, "I've managed to repair some of the circuits, but the power source is fried. Without it, the range won't be strong enough to affect multiple orbs." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Do we have anything that could replace it?" Ryan hesitated, then nodded. "There's one option, a battery from the cloaking generator, but if we use it, we lose the cloak." Ethan weighed the options. The cloaking generator had been invaluable during their missions, allowing them to move undetected. Without it, they'd be exposed to the Vrin's full attention. But if Ryan's upgrades worked, the risk might be worth it. "Do it," Ethan said finally. "But hurry. We don't know how much longer we'll last." Ryan got to work immediately, dismantling the cloaking generator and extracting its power. He connected it to the signal device, rerouting energy flows to maximize output. By the time Samantha and Laura returned from activating the second wave of traps, the device was nearly complete. "We caused some serious damage," Samantha reported, dropping her gear on the table. "Their systems are still stabilizing, but they're reinforcing their positions. It won't take long for them to recover. That's why we need this." Ryan held up the modified signal device, its surface gleaming faintly. "It's ready, or at least as ready as it's going." "To get." Ethan took the device, inspecting it carefully. "All right, here's the plan. We'll deploy this in the heart of their operation, one of the zones where they're concentrating their forces. If it works, we'll disrupt their entire network. If it doesn't," he trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought. "I'll go with you," Samantha said immediately. "Two sets of eyes are better than one." "No," Ethan replied firmly. "You've done enough. Stay here and protect the facility. Ryan, you too. Laura and I will handle this." Samantha opened her mouth to argue, but Ethan cut her off. We don't have time to debate. Trust me on this. Reluctantly, she nodded. Be careful. With Laura by his side, Ethan set out into the night, carrying the signal device and a rifle slung over his shoulder. The journey was tense, every shadow seeming to hide danger. When they reached the designated zone, they found it swarming with orbs and clusters of terrified humans. The Varin were escalating their tests, pushing captives to their limits. Ethan signaled for Laura to stay. Low, while he crept closer to the largest concentration of orbs, he activated the device, aiming it at the nearest orb and triggering the sign. *** document Part 3 of Alien started the survival test. Humans had already set traps. *** the facility was alive with activity as Ethan and his team worked to decipher the secrets of the alien orb. The pieces they had salvaged were spread out. Across a large metal table, each fragment glowing faintly, with an energy that seemed almost alive. Laura pored over the data streaming from her laptop, her eyes scanning lines of code and readings that made little sense even to her trained mind. Ryan sat beside her, typing furiously as he tried to decode the strange signals emanating from the orb's core. Samantha stood nearby, cleaning and reloading weapons, while keeping one ear tuned to the radio for updates on the Varin's movements. Ethan leaned against the wall. His arms crossed as he watched the others work. He felt torn between pride in their progress and frustration at how much they still didn't know. The orb was a marvel of technology, far beyond anything humanity had created. But it also represented a threat, one they had barely begun to understand. Every second they spent studying it was another second the Varin could use to tighten their grip on Earth. We're missing something, Laura said suddenly, breaking the silence. She pointed to a graph on her screen. Look at this. The energy. Patterns aren't consistent. They spike and drop randomly, almost like communication. Communication, Ethan asked, stepping closer. You mean the orbs are talking to each other? Not just to each other? Laura replied, her voice tense with excitement. I think they're relaying information back to the mothership. Everything we do, everything we try, it's being recorded and analyzed. Samantha frowned, lowering the weapon she'd been inspecting. So we're not just fighting the Varin? Here on the ground, we're fighting their entire system. Exactly, Laura said. They're learning from us, adapting. If we don't find a way to disrupt that connection, they'll stay one step ahead no matter what we do. Ryan looked up from his computer. What if we hack into it, reverse engineer their signal, and send false data instead? It's risky, Ethan said, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. But it might be our only shot. Can you do it? Ryan hesitated, then nodded. I can try, but I'll need time. I'm back up. I'll handle security, Samantha offered immediately. If the Varin send reinforcements, we'll deal with them. Ethan glanced at the clock on the wall. Time was slipping away faster than any of them wanted to admit. Outside, reports continued to pour in about the Varin's tests. Entire cities had been transformed into alien landscapes, complete with impossible structures and deadly traps. People were dying by the thousands, either failing the challenges or resisting and being punished for it. The stakes couldn't have been higher. All right, Ethan said finally. Ryan, focus on cracking the signal. Laura, keep analyzing the orb. Samantha and I will patrol the perimeter. If anything moves, we stop it. The group split up, each member heading to their assigned task. Ethan grabbed a rifle and joined Samantha near the facility's entrance. Together, they stepped outside, their senses sharp and alert. The air was colder now, carrying a metallic temps that reminded Ethan of storms. Overhead, the massive alien ship loomed like a shadow, its presence oppressive and unrelenting. As they moved through the deserted streets, Ethan noticed something unusual, a faint hum coming from a nearby alley. He signaled for Samantha to stop, and together they crept toward the sound. What they found surprised them. Two civilians, a man and a woman, crouched behind a pile of rubble, their faces pale and streaked with dirt. The man held a makeshift spear, while the woman clutched a backpack filled with supplies. You shouldn't be out here, Ethan said firmly, though his tone was gentle. It's not safe. The man looked up, his eyes wide with fear. We didn't have a choice. The aliens took our town. We barely escaped. Samantha knelt beside them, her expression softening. Where are you headed? To the resistance, the woman replied. Her voice trembled, but there was determination in her gaze. We heard rumors about people fighting back. Is it true? Ethan exchanged a glance with Samantha. The resistance wasn't some organized army, they were scattered groups of survivors, doing whatever they could to survive. But maybe that was enough. Maybe all it took was a spark to ignite a fire. It's true, Ethan said after a moment. But you'll need more than courage to join the fight. Follow us. We'll get you to safety. The couple hesitated, then nodded. They gathered their belongings and fell in line behind Ethan and Samantha. As they guided the civilians back to the facility, Ethan couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Humanity wasn't just waiting to be tested, it was fighting back. In small ways, in hidden corners, people were refusing to give up. Back at the facility, Ryan was deep in concentration, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he worked to decrypt the alien signal. Laura hovered nearby, offering suggestions and double-checking his calculations. When Ethan and Samantha returned with the civilians, both looked up, startled by the interruption. Who are they? Laura asked, her voice sharp with concern. Survivors, Ethan explained. They're looking for the resistance. Laura's expression softened. Bring them inside. We'll find room for them. As the civilians settled into a corner of the lab, Ryan let out a triumphant shout. I've got it. I think I've cracked the encryption. Everyone gathered around him, their attention focused on the screen. A stream of symbols scrolled past, shifting and changing in real time. Ryan pointed to a section of the code. This is the key. Controls the orb's communication link. If we inject our own signal here, we can feed them false data. How does that help us? Samantha asked, frowning. It confuses them, Ryan explained. It makes them think we're stronger than we are, or weaker, depending on what we want. Either way, it buys us time to strike. Ethan nodded slowly, considering the implications. Do it, but make sure it's reversible. You don't want to lose control of the signal. Ryan got to work, his hands moving with practiced precision. Within minutes, he had crafted a program designed to mimic the alien signal. He uploaded it to a portable device and handed it to Ethan. Once you activate this, it'll start broadcasting. Just aim it at one of the orbs, and it'll spread from there. Good work, Ethan said, slapping Ryan on the back. Now we just need to test it. The team suited up and prepared to leave the facility once again. This time their goal was clear. Find an orb and deploy the signal. As they stepped outside, the hum of alien technology grew louder, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. The sky above was darker now, clouds swirling unnaturally around the edges of the massive ship. Samantha led the way, her movements swift and silent. She carried the cloaking generator in one hand and the signal device in the other, ready to deploy it at a moment's notice. Behind her, Ethan kept watch, his rifle raised and his finger hovering over the trigger. Laura stayed close to Ryan, who carried a tablet displaying a map of nearby orb locations. There, Samantha whispered, pointing ahead. About 20 yards away, a cluster of orbs floated above a group of terrified humans. The captives huddled together, their faces etched with despair. One man shouted defiantly at the orbs, only to be silenced by a bright flash of light that sent him sprawling to the ground. We need to act fast, Ethan murmured. Activate the cloak. Samantha pressed the button, and the familiar shimmer enveloped the group. They moved forward cautiously, careful not to draw attention. When they were within range, Ethan nodded to Ryan, who activated the signal device. A low whine filled the air as the device began broadcasting its false data. At first, nothing happened. Then, one of the orbs flickered, its glow dimming slightly. Another followed, then another, until all of them wavered uncertainly. The humans, trapped beneath them, stared in shock as the orbs drifted aimlessly. Their usual precision replaced by confusion. It's working, Laura exclaimed, her voice barely audible over the hum of the device. Keep it going, Ethan ordered. We need to hold this position until the signal takes full effect. The team held their ground, watching as the orbs struggled to regain control. Some of the captives seized the opportunity to flee, running toward the shadows, where they hoped to disappear. Others remained frozen, too afraid to move. Suddenly the air crackled with energy. A new orb descended from the sky, larger and brighter than the others. It pulsed with an intense light, forcing the smaller orbs to retreat. Ethan cursed under his breath, realizing they had triggered a response. "They've sent a supervisor," Samantha said, her voice tight with tension. "We need to fall back." "No," Ethan replied firmly. "Not yet. If we can disable this one too, we'll deal a major blow to their operation." Samantha hesitated, then nodded. She adjusted the settings on the signal device, amplifying its output. The large orb shuddered, its movements becoming erratic. For a moment, it seemed like they might succeed. But then, with a deafening roar, the orb unleashed a burst of energy that knocked the team off their feet. Ethan groaned, struggling to sit up. His ears rang from the explosion, and his vision blurred as he tried to focus. Around him, his teammates lay dazed but alive. The signal device lay shattered on the ground, its light fading into darkness. "We lost it," Ryan said weakly. Clutching his side, Ethan clenched his fists, anger bubbling inside him. They had come so close, only to fail. At the last moment? But failure wasn't an option, not when so much depended on their success. Asterisk. Document. Part 1 of Aliens started the survival test humans had. Already set traps. Asterisk. The sky above Earth turned an eerie shade of orange as the massive alien spacecraft descended. It wasn't like anything people had seen in movies or books. This was real, and it was happening right now. The ship was enormous, almost blotting out the sun as it hovered silently over the planet. Its surface shimmered with strange patterns that seemed to shift and change as if alive. People all over the world stopped what they were doing to stare at the skies, their faces filled with awe and fear. Ethan Carter stood in his backyard, his hands gripping the edge of a wooden fence. His heart pounded as he watched the giant craft lower itself into the atmosphere. He lived in a small town in Colorado, far from the bustling cities, but even here, the arrival felt overwhelming. The air seemed heavier, charged with electricity, and the usual sounds of birds chirping in wind. Rustling through trees had gone eerily quiet. Ethan didn't know much about aliens. But one thing was clear, they weren't here for a friendly visit. Inside homes, offices and schools, televisions flickered to life without anyone turning them on. Every screen, no matter where it was located, displayed the same image. Tall, insect-like creature appeared, its elongated limbs and glowing eyes making it look both fascinating and terrifying. Its voice echoed across languages, perfectly translated into every tongue spoken on Earth. "We are the Vrin," it said, its tone cold and mechanical. "We have come to assess your worthiness." Ethan frowned as he listened. Worthiness? What did that even mean? He glanced around his neighborhood. Others had stepped outside too, some holding phones up to record the moment, others simply frozen in place. One woman clutched her child tightly, tears streaming down her face. Ethan couldn't blame her. Whatever this was, it didn't feel good. The alien continued speaking, its words sending chills down everyone's spines. "Your species has been observed for many cycles. You possess intelligence, yet your actions often contradict logic. Destroy your own environment, harm each other, and show little regard for balance. We will conduct a test of survival assessment to determine whether you deserve to continue existing." A murmur rippled through the crowd gathered near Ethan's house. Some people shouted questions, though no one expected answers. Others just stared blankly at the sky, unable to process what they were hearing. Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He wasn't sure why, but something about this whole situation felt off. Like déjà vu. Or maybe déjà vu wasn't the right word. It was more like a memory buried deep inside him, trying to resurface. He shook his head, forcing himself to focus. Right now, panicking wouldn't help anyone. Instead, he turned and jogged back inside his house. Ethan wasn't just any ordinary guy, he was an engineer who worked on complex systems for a living. His mind naturally sought solutions to problems, and right now humanity had a big problem on its hands. He grabbed his laptop and powered it up, pulling up files related to his latest project. But instead of working on those, he opened a folder labeled Classified. Years ago, Ethan had stumbled upon something unusual while doing freelance work for a government contractor. At first, he thought it was just another boring assignment involving old data archives. But then he found references to intercepted signals messages from space. Scientists had analyzed these signals decades earlier and concluded they came from intelligent extraterrestrial beings. More importantly, there were plans within the documents. Plans for traps, defenses, countermeasures, things designed specifically to deal with alien threats. At the time, Ethan dismissed it as paranoia. Governments always prepared for worst-case scenarios, after all. Nuclear war, pandemics, asteroid impacts, you name it, someone, somewhere had probably drawn up contingency plans. But now, staring at the files again, he realized how significant they might be. Humanity hadn't just guessed aliens could pose a threat someday. They'd known. They'd been ready. Ethan scrolled through the documents, his eyes widening as he absorbed the details. There were blueprints for electromagnetic pulse devices capable of disabling advanced technology, instructions for creating cloaking mechanisms to hide human movements, even strategies for exploiting potential weaknesses in alien biology based on speculative research. Whoever had put this together had thought of everything, or at least tried to. As Ethan read, his phone buzzed on the table beside him. He picked it up and saw a text from Laura Bennett, an old friend from college. She worked at a government research facility now, specializing in cryptography. Her message was short and urgent. "Did you see?" Ethan typed back immediately. "Are you seeing this too?" Her reply came quickly. "More than you know. Meet me ASAP." Without hesitation, Ethan grabbed his car keys and headed out the door. The streets were chaotic, with cars honking and people rushing about in confusion. Some had taken to social media, spreading wild theories about the aliens' intentions. Others barricaded themselves indoors, convinced the end of the world was nigh. Ethan ignored it all, focusing only on getting to Laura. If anyone could make sense of what was happening, it was her. When he arrived at the facility, security guards waved him through after checking his credentials. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Scientists and technicians scurried around, their faces pale and drawn. Laura met him in a dimly lit conference room, her expression grim. On the table between them lay stacks of papers and several open laptops displaying streams of data. "Tell me you've seen the files," she said without preamble. "I have," Ethan replied, sitting down across from her. "But I need context." "Why would they prepare for something like this?" Laura sighed, running a hand through her short brown hair. "Because they knew. Not everything, obviously, but enough to take precautions. Those signals you found, they contained warnings. Subtle ones, but warnings nonetheless. Someone out there wanted us to be ready." Ethan leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table. "And the traps, the defenses, they're real," Laura confirmed. "Most of them were never activated because we didn't think we'd need them. But now," she trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. "Now, humanity might not survive unless they used every tool at their disposal." Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of her words. For years, he'd thought of himself as just another cog in the machine, working on projects that seemed insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Now suddenly, everything mattered. Every decision, every action, could mean the difference between life and death for billions of people. "We should start activating them," Ethan said finally. "Whatever we can get online, we do it now, before the aliens figure out what we're capable of," Laura agreed, though her expression remained troubled.
Ow.
"It won't be easy. A lot of these systems are outdated. We'll need help." "Then let's get help," Ethan replied firmly. "Who else can we trust?" Together, they began assembling a team. First, they reached out to Ryan Cole, a brilliant teenager who had interned at the facility during the summer. Ryan had a knack for hacking into even the most secure systems, and his youthful energy made him perfect for the task ahead. Next, they recruited Samantha Brooks, a survival expert who had trained military personnel in extreme conditions. Her practical knowledge would be invaluable when it came to executing their plans. By the time the group convened in the facility's main lab, the Vrin had already begun their tests. News reports flooded in, showing scenes of chaos from around the globe. In some areas, entire towns had vanished overnight, replaced by bizarre landscapes that defied explanation. In others, groups of humans found themselves trapped in mazes, or forced to solve impossible puzzles. Failure meant death. Or worse. Ethan stared at the footage, his jaw tightening. "They're testing us," he muttered, seeing how we react under pressure. "And judging us based on our performance," Laura added. "Which means we don't have much time." Ryan cracked his knuckles, his fingers flying over a keyboard as he accessed the dormant defense systems. "Got it," he announced after a few minutes. "I've reactivated the EMP grid in Sector 4. Should knock out any alien tech in range." Samantha nodded approvingly. "Good. That'll buy us some breathing room. But we'll need more than gadgets to win this fight." Agreed. As smart as their predecessors had been, planning for an alien invasion required more than technology. It required courage, ingenuity, and sheer determination. Qualities that, despite their flaws, humans possessed in abundance. As the team got to work, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about surviving the Vrin's tests. It was about proving something not just to the aliens, but to themselves. Humanity had always risen to meet challenges, no matter how insurmountable they seemed, and this time would be no different. Outside, the orange glow of the alien ship still dominated the horizon. But inside the lab, hope flickered to life, fueled by the belief that even the smallest efforts could change the course of history. Ethan smiled faintly, knowing they were about to show the universe exactly what humans were made of. "Would you like me to save this as a separate document? If so, please specify your preferred format, for example, PDF, DOCX."